Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Audit and Standards meeting of Newcastle Underlyne Borough Council, which is a public meeting being live streamed and recorded. Communications have been tested in the room for the live stream. The recording will be available on the Borough Council's website. I would remind members to use their desktop microphone when invited to speak, and that standards of behaviour for meetings apply as set out in the Council's standing orders. If members of the public are present, I welcome those in the public gallery here today, which they're not, so we don't need to worry about that. Mobile phones should be switched off or set to silent. There are no planned fire drills during this meeting, and fire exits are clearly marked. In the event of the alarm activating, please follow directions by staff. Thank you. Okay, item number 1 then on the agenda then. Do we have any apologies? I noticed.
Apologies from Mike.
Mike.
Yeah.
Is he coming or is he?
No.
No, he's not coming. Okay, so that's Councillor Stubbs. Thank you. Item number 2 then is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations of interest that they need to make us aware of? No? Okay, thank you. Item number 3 then is the minutes of the previous meeting. There's one aspect of this that I just wanted to bring people's attention to, and that was that Councillor Stubbs mentioned or asked why certain risks had been increased, and that in particular the bribery act, and Craig was just going to give us a little bit of detail on that whenever you're ready, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This risk relates to business partnership risks, and it solely relates to the regeneration projects that we're shortly about to undertake. The risk has been increased just due to the value. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, then moving on. Item number 4 then is the Health and Safety Annual Report for 2024-5. And George is going to just give us a brief rundown on that whenever you're ready, Georgie. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. So this covers the period 24-25 and outlines work undertaken by the Corporate Health and Safety team and any arising matters within that period. So over that year, the Corporate Health and Safety Policy, Employee Handbook and Driving for Work Policy have been updated and re-signed off. We've made some digital systems improvements. So our Target 100 system is our risk management and accident reporting software. We've adjusted that to include a single sign-on, which means that staff can access the system much more easily and therefore more likely to engage in that reporting, which we can learn from carefully. We've delivered a number of elements of training in the period, including first aid training, evac chair training, manual handling, controlling officer training, and we've updated the online mandatory training for all officers. We have seen a slight increase in accidents within the period. This is largely due to a cold winter where we had some unpreventable slips, trips and falls. And also we've seen an increase in our near miss reporting, which we encourage teams to report where matters might have not been reported before. So that again adds to our capacity to learn and prevent any incidents arising. We've undertaken a series of scheduled health and safety inspections and improved that approach in terms of data learning and feedback. We've held all site-specific committees as appropriate, and then the feedback from those goes to our central health and safety committee. We've undertaken all scheduled fire drills with resulting advice and guidance to the appropriate teams, and we continue to support the major refurb work at the depot. So at the moment we're looking at a single fire strategy for that site, given that Aspire are now resident in there. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Georgie. Just before I excuse me, pass it out to everybody else, there's one thing that I just wondered about on page 11, paragraph 2.3. It refers to a TTC continuum. Could you just tell me what that is, please? Because I couldn't guess what it was.
Yes, that is a to do with the driving at work policy. That's a system by which our officers submit their details to a database, and that does our internal checks for us. So making sure the driving licenses, insurance, etc., are all up to date, so that we know they're safe when they're using their own cars as part of their work.
Can I just pass that out then? Do we have any other questions on that report, Rebecca?
Thank you. So just in regards to table 5.3, I do note overall in the report that you've said there was an increase in non-reportable incidents due to the cold weather. There are some of the warmer months with higher reports than cooler months. So I just wondered what the increase of reports were in the other months as well as the cold weather. Thank you.
Yes, so it's a variety of things. The cold weather, as you say, accounts for those in the winter months. But what we encourage people to do is report anything that might have happened that we can then learn from and avoid. So when we're seeing an increase in those near misses, actually that's a positive thing. So we're encouraging people to report that more. So that's why you'll see the increases all throughout the year, and then some more actual accidents potentially within those colder months.
Thanks. Yeah, just a couple of questions. You know, the riddle summary and the incident types, are they kind of rated by severity of the injury types?
Yes.
Because I was just looking at that one, kind of crushed by a bench. It's probably not as serious as it.
No, well, the language, the sort of technical accident speak is crushed, and it does sort of conjure up quite a dramatic image, but it just means a compression type injury.
Okay. And do we have any kind of compensation claims at all as a result of these injuries, or? I
haven't got that detail with me now. This is primarily around the actual health and safety aspects and the preventable stuff, but we can get that data, yeah.
Okay. And just one question around the lone working.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering when the procurement process of a new provider, when that starts, and will there be any kind of gaps?
Yeah, so there won't be any gaps. We are contracted with our existing provider up until the end of October. We're hoping to get the new provider in the next couple of weeks, so we'll have that overlap, so people won't be without devices in that meantime.
Okay, thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Joan.
Just a quickie. It mentions about training on evac chairs and fitting breathing apparatus. Do we ever involve the local fire brigade, fire authority? I've got to say firefighters, I'm told, as opposed to gender positive. Do we involve any of them in that sort of training assistance or advice, or because they're the experts in my head, you see?
I think it depends obviously on what the reason for an evacuation would be. We don't involve them at the moment, but our training is accredited and approved. It's not just us doing our own thing, but it's not through the fire service now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Sorry. I'm just thinking with the universities, when it was, 3, 4, 5 stories up, we always used to have the local fire brigade in just to do a chat to people to say, you just leave the people. If you've got to go a wheelchair out, we'll get them out, all that sort of thing, and where what do you call them? Extinguishers should be placed, and door exits and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we've got the capacity to deliver that training in-house and the expertise within our health and safety officers. They are qualified professionals themselves, so they can give us that advice. In terms of more high-risk areas like the depot, we are developing a fire strategy. So that will cover off a lot more detail around exits, etc.
One of the things that drives me crazy, we actually have an illegal door on this ground floor. Doors should not open inwards because it's an absolute death trap if there's a crowd trying to get out. Doors should always open outwards. There's case law on that.
I'll have a look at that for you.
Would you?
Yeah.
It's this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions on this report? No? Okay. Can we agree to note that then, and we'll move on to item 5, the Q1 internal audit progress update for 2025-26, and Alex is going to give us some information on that whenever he's ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an overview of the activities undertaken by internal audit from the 1st of April to the 30th of June 2025. The primary focus during Q1 for us has been to schedule and initiate as many audits as possible. If we move to section 2.2 of the report, it details the status for each audit in the plan. And if I could just summarise that table, by the end of Q1, whilst no audits had been completed, 14 audits had been scheduled with the auditee, and with planning started for 5 of these. Progress against the plan for Q1 is in line with our expectations. We've also got a programme of counter-fraud work, which is included in the plan, and that makes up 40 days of work. Again, work in this area is limited to scheduling and preparing for the work for the year ahead. We've had 8 fraud-related referrals from members of the public, all of which have been initially triaged and dealt with appropriately. None of these referrals we feel need to be reported to this committee. Section 2.7 of the report details the status of audit recommendations as of the 12th of September, and this shows that there are 58 that have not yet been implemented, but it is worth noting that no recommendations are currently overdue. And that's pretty much a summary of that report. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Alex. Do we have any questions on that report? No? Okay. Thanks, Alex. We'll agree to note the progress, and we'll move on to the item number 6, which is the Q1 Corporate Risk Management Report for 2025-6. And Anthony's going to give us some information on that, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is a regular report that comes to this committee in terms of the current risk profile and controls of corporate risks. The recommendations in the report are as follows. To note that there are currently no risks that are more than 6 months overdue for review up to the end of Q1 of 2025-26. Note that there have been no risk level increases, and note that 2 new risks have been added, which are included in Appendix A. Note the corporate risk register profile, and I would advise that I'd ask members rather to advise officers of any individual risk profiles that the committee would like to scrutinise in more detail at its next meeting. And finally, the recommendation to note that whilst the likelihood of a risk materialising may be mitigated, the likely impacts may not change. If I can turn to Appendix A, which is the most salient point, I think, in terms of any change here, is the corporate risk for supported accommodation. That has is actually a high red E, whereas the target level is a medium amber D, and that relates to an increasing number of unregulated supported accommodation providers claiming inflated rents via housing benefit claims, resulting in the council being unable to claim proportionate amounts from the DWP. There are mitigation measures in place in relation to that. The action plans are referred there to prioritise registered providers, etc., and also to explore opportunities for further resources in order to carry out reviews of those claims and providers. The other one is, bear with me, town centre regeneration and development failure as a risk. Again, another new one that is a medium amber C that was last reviewed on the 18th of July and will be next reviewed on the 16th of October. The action plan in relation to that, to assist members, is there robust construction management of development agreements and progress on site with the contractors. That's really the summary of the report. Unless members have any questions I can assist with. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Do we have any questions? Anybody? Joan.
Again, just a quickie, I might have missed it because I've not been able to read it quite as thoroughly as I would like to. I presume we have we're heavily dependent on IT in this.
The council? Sorry.
Yeah. We're heavily dependent on IT. I am, anyway, even though I can't work it. Presumably there's a disaster recovery plan. And if there is, how often is it updated and checked?
So, yes, though there will be a disaster recovery plan. The corporate risks will be scheduled. I can get you a copy of that if you wish. I wasn't planning to speak to that particularly in this report.
I'm really sad. I do like risk management and I would love to see it. Thank you.
Of course, I'll get a copy of that to you, Councillor.
Thanks, Anthony and Joan. Do we have any other questions on the risk management report? No? Okay. In that case, can we agree to note the recommendations as typed so that I don't have to read them all out again, and move on to the next item, which is the audited statement of accounts for 2024-25. And we have Richard and Rob here to give us some information and an update on that whenever you're ready, please, gentlemen.
Accounts beforehand, Craig.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. So at the last Audit and Standards Committee on 16th of June, we had the draft statements of accounts produced. Since then, the finance team have worked really closely and well with the council's external auditors, KPMG, to pretty much complete the audit. KPMG have advised that they expect to issue their final audit findings report, an annual report, to the next committee on the 10th of November. The three recommendations, the first one is that the committee delegate authority to the Section 151 officer and the chair of the committee to sign off the statements of accounts once the audit has been completed, and that the committee receive both the audit findings report and the completed value for money risk assessment for the year. If I hand over now to Richard from KPMG to talk through their findings. Thank you.
I'll hand straight to Rob.
That's great, thanks, Chair. So yeah, the first report is our year-end report, and this provides an overview of our work to date and the work around the significant risks, specifically any particular audit findings during the course of the audit. If I touch on page 4, this gives a sort of overview of the findings to date. There are some outstanding matters. There are some things that we've signed off since, or we've completed since sending this report around journals and the payroll testing. There are some other things on there we just need to sort of go through, particularly around internal quality review. There's a lot of documentation to do, particularly on these significant risk areas, and they're the areas we're working on at the moment. But as Craig alluded to, it's certainly our plan to make sure we conclude this work by November. I won't go into too much detail on the significant risks. I would just draw out that we did raise a recommendation on the completeness and accuracy of the working papers, and just encouraging that there's a sort of second level of review there by the property management team, so that we get it right first time type of approach in terms of the evidence that's presented to us. In terms of pensions, as ever, everyone's favourite topic. There's obviously some technicalities there around the application of actual returns versus estimated returns over the pension assets, and that's resulted in a unadjusted audited difference of 885,000, which may seem quite significant, but this is over a cumulative effect over a 3-year period, and is broadly in line with the triennial valuation, which takes place every 3 years. So in theory, that will rebase next year, and it's not something that would need to be adjusted in this year's accounts. Other than that, I think, as pleasingly, there are no or few recommendations to report. They are included, as alluded to, around the valuation of working papers and the missing declaration of interest with respect to related parties. And they're included on page 29 and 30 of the report. In addition, there are a number of corrected audit adjustments, again related to pensions, whereby the authority received a draft report. They then received an updated report, and some of those adjustments sort of feed through in those adjustments. The uncorrected adjustments relate to the defined benefit asset that I alluded to before, and also the around investment property valuation, where there was some revenue expenditure capitalised, and that again, that's not an adjustment that needs to be made to the accounts. So I think that's it in terms of the audit findings. I'll hand over to Richard to take us through the value for money risk assessment.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And we'll come back for questions on both, if that's okay. So you've got the second of our two reports in the packs around the value for money work that we do. So I have two hats. I'm responsible for signing the financial statements opinion, and then I'm also responsible for issuing the commentary around the value for money arrangements. So this is our risk assessment, and it basically considers the arrangements that are in place for the 2024-25 financial year, and it covers a consideration of what are called three domains. So it looks at financial sustainability, it looks at the governance arrangements, and then it considers how the councils work to improve economy, efficiency and effectiveness in use of resources, or kind of how it gets the most bang for its buck, as it were. So we have a programme of work that we need to follow, which has been set by the National Audit Office. We issue a request for information to Craig and his team, and he delivers back to us lots of detail, financial forecasts, the minutes, policies, procedures, and all of that type of information. And then we combine that with our sort of broader understanding of the council and how it operates, the environment in which you're currently working, the wider sector challenges and financial constraints, and we work through those various different questions and make sure that there are suitable arrangements in place. We don't issue an opinion, it is just purely this commentary. We look initially for whether there's any significant risks of significant weakness, which is catchily titled the thing that we're looking for, and you'll be pleased to see that in the report you've got the box which is green, which basically indicates that we haven't identified any significant risks of significant weakness. This commentary will then flow through into what's called an auditor's annual report that we'll issue alongside the financial statements opinion. That'll get published on your website and will be within the public domain as kind of like the conclusion of this work. But the fact that you've got those three green boxes is really positive. We have a rebuttable starting position that if there's any financial sustainability challenges where you're dipping into reserves and using, having negative financial forecasts, that there's a significant risk there, and that isn't in this report. The green conclusion on governance means that you have appropriate arrangements in place around risk management, scrutiny, challenge. We've looked at the decision making that sits behind, some of the big investment decisions that are taking place around the town centre strategy. We've discussed with management opportunities for the future, as you enter into new partnerships, the importance of making sure that the governance arrangements around those are tight, but that's something that we'll pick up in future years as they flow through. And similarly, in terms of the final domain area, we can see that you use performance indicators. And I think 12 months, well, it wasn't 12 months ago, it was January this year, we talked about benchmarking. We can see examples have been presented to us of how you've done that. So I fully anticipate that this commentary will flow through, given the short time period now between presenting this and when we have to issue the auditor's annual report. So we won't be doing any further work around this area. So I think, yeah, a positive report and a good outcome.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good to hear such a positive update on everything. So thanks to all the audit teams, and thanks, of course, to the accounts teams who've produced the information. Do we have any questions? No? Joan, go on.
Just a quick comment. Can I just thank who's been involved in it? That's yourselves and our officers as well. It's a very thorough and easy readable report, which it might not have been a few years ago, but it is now. Thank you so much for all your efforts. I find it easy to understand, and I'm not a numbers person. I usually rely on the other end of the table for numbers.
Right. So if there are no other comments or questions, then can we agree the recommendations, which are, first of all, to receive the final statement of accounts for the financial year 2024-25 and delegate authority to the Service Director of Finance, i.e. the Section 151 officer, and the Chair of Audit and Standards Committee, myself, to sign off the statement of accounts once the audit has been completed, and also to agree to receive the audit findings report, the ISA 260 report for the financial year 2024-25, and also receive the value for money risk assessment for the same period. Is that all okay with everybody? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Item number 8 then is the work programme. It has been suggested that what we may wish to do, although it won't affect this year, is look at, in future years, moving the meeting where we actually discuss the audited statement of accounts back to November. I think that was right. That was what was being suggested, just so that we can ensure that all the work's being completed prior to that. Other than that, I haven't got any comments to make on the work programme. Has anybody else got any issues that they want to bring up? No? Okay, I've not been notified of any urgent business, so in that case, thank you all for your attendance, and I'll close the meeting.
I think it's Sarah's last meeting.
Yeah, yes. I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to say this in the meeting or not, but for those who are not aware, Sarah's leaving us tomorrow. It is tomorrow, isn't it? October. Oh, right. Sorry. 14th of October, right. Well, fancy going in the middle of a month. so Sarah's leaving us on the 14th of October. So if you need to get anything from her, make sure you get it before then. But she will be missed.
That's not what I wanted you to say.
You can say something afterwards, Joan. We'll all be sorry to see her go. She's been here a long time. I couldn't tell you how long, but she's been here a long time, and she's been a very competent and hard-working officer for us. And I'm sure that everybody will be as sad as me to see her go. So good luck to you in your new role. And I'll pass it over to Joan. She obviously got something much more important to say.
Well, I just wanted to rugby tackle her as she tried to leave the building, but I don't think it would work. I think we're all going to miss you enormously. You've just been, you're not just a pretty face, you do sums and you know stuff, and we will miss you dreadfully. But good luck wherever you're going. Firefighters, isn't it? All those men in uniform, you're going to have a great time, but we will miss you.
Go on, Steve.
Only quick, I'd like to point out, of course, that the young man sitting on my left has been appointed as the 151 officer and taken over from Sarah the day after she leaves. So I think we've had a good appointment. Good luck to Sarah and the rest of the futures.
Certain whether that was actually official or not, so I didn't dare say anything about it just in case. But yeah, oh, did it? Right, okay. Yeah, congratulations, Craig. you know, I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job for us, and I'm very pleased that you're the person who's got it.
Yes.
So.
That's the view of the Labour group as well. Yes.